Howdy everyone, and welcome to Still Framing, a brand new show from First Construction. This podcast is all about life, business, and that wild ride of trying to get your footing in your late 20s and early 30s. We sit down with people who are out there doing meaningful things, builders, creators, parents, leaders, and everyday folks out there chasing something bigger. It's not about titles, it's not about positions. It's about doing the real work and becoming who you're supposed to be. And for our very first episode, we're kicking things off with someone we know better than anyone. So sit back and tune in to this excellent interview with our even more excellent guest, our CFO, Travis McCullough.
Travis, we're here at First Construction headquarters. You're the CFO here. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
So I am a fractional CFO. So I run my own business where for businesses who don't want to hire a full-time CFO, fraction of the time, fraction of the cost, easy way to think about it, I come in and be a CFO for you.
So fractional CFO, you're 34 years old. When did you get started in the financial industry?
I got started in the financial industry. Depends on what you consider the financial industry, I guess. Because
Full-time, I guess.
Finance and accounting.
Okay.
So I was originally a finance major in college. Well, let me take a step back for you, actually, because in high school, my principal was actually pushing me to do broadcast journalism.
Okay.
I did the PA announcements. I was good with speeches, stuff like that. And I was mentored by my future father-in-law. I was dating his daughter at the time. He's like, "What are you going to do with your life?" Speech. And I go, "I don't know." He's like, "Well, what are you good at?" And I go, "Well, I'm good at numbers. Math is my best subject, and I'm good at talking."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, have you thought about finance?" He goes, "I got a friend who's a financial advisor and said how much he made and he can go golfing half the time." And I was like, "That sounds great." My number one goal was just not be poor.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. And I grew up what I call part-time poor.
Yeah.
Because my dad owned his own plumbing company. So, good times, bad times. You know how that goes.
Part-time poor. That's a
Yeah.
good way of putting it.
Yeah, we had great vacations and then we're eating mac and cheese for a week. So there's a wide berth in between those two situations. But yeah, that's how that was going. So I was just like, I just didn't like the poor times so much. I was like, that was my only thing. That's why my dad pushed me to go to college instead of staying in the ditches with him. So I was talking to him about that, and he mentioned the financial advisor friend, and so I was going that route. Well, freshman year in college, I talked to some people who were financial advisors. I don't know, something about it just didn't sit well with me, the way that it was almost just a commission sales job.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing against commission sales jobs. I think learning to sell is the best skill you can learn these days. And I was just surprised because I didn't expect it. And the way that it was presented, where it was like, "Hey, we can sell this mutual fund, and then about 2 years later, we can get another commission on it." So we call them up and say, "Hey, I think we need to do something different. And we sell this other mutual fund so we can make money." And I'm like, that doesn't feel very honest.
Right.
And so I switched to accounting and then did 4 years at a CPA firm. It was not me. It was, hey, I pray for anyone that is able to do that job. It's a hard job.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about myself. Like, I do a lot of good work between the hours of 1 a.m. and 4 a.m., apparently. Never want to learn that about myself, though, ever again.
All right.
And was able then, through an open door, to go into financial planning. It was when I was just sitting at a desk all day,
Mm-hmm.
doing tax returns for small businesses and people, and all of them were different, but all of them were very similar at the same time. Like, just, you're going through the same notes, you're going through the same cadences, you're going through the same schedules on the returns.
Mm-hmm.
You're sitting in your desk. People are not happy to talk to you during tax time.
Yeah.
And I was seemingly turned into the customer service person because I could ease people and be like, "Hey, yeah, I'm sorry, this isn't a great deal here, but we did this, like, try and make a positive out of it." And people were like, "Hey, thanks for talking to me." And I made the best of it, but it drained my soul just sitting at a desk all day long, but like in my office, not really interacting with people too much, and just, let me say it again, sitting in my office, doing the same. See, so it just wasn't for me.
I think we all know, well, I know we all know well that no matter where you end up in life, the first probably couple of years of any trade or skill is going to be put your head down and do the grunt work, right? Mm-hmm. Do you remember something that you saw about the workplace or anything like that that told you this is as much as I get out of this. There's nothing more if I get really good.
I mean, I started taking medication to focus more.
Okay.
I mean, I made it through a master's degree and didn't need, ADD medication.
Yeah.
I'm sitting at this job in my mid-20s going, I can't do it. I'm burnt out. I'm like just sitting here staring at a screen. I go to the doctor's office, I get medication now. Like, how can I make it through all of that with great grades, a full ride scholarship and all that? And so I feel like I was changing a lot about what I was just to try and bulldoze my way through it.
Yeah.
And it hit me like going into year 4 probably. It was just, I think I had a breakdown. Like, my wife was like, okay, maybe we figure out what else we need to do. And I was like, I don't know what I need to do. This is literally what I got a degree in. I got 2 degrees in this. Like, what else am I going to do? And I don't know. It was a hard place there for a little while. It just got real hopeless.
Yeah.
I think I would even describe it as is this all that I'm going to be able to get done? Because it felt like it was just getting harder and harder every year.
But what I do hear from that though is that ultimately the decision came down to more of a spiritual thing than any one logical thing, because you said it was soul draining,
It was great because when I did leave, I talked to the managing partner, and I remember just the conversation going, hey, I think this is obvious. This is not for me. And him letting out a sigh and going, yeah, I can see that. He said he was disappointed that I was leaving, but he understood, and it was a good conversation. Left amicably. Had an opportunity to go work at a financial planning firm, and this was awesome because what in high school I thought financial planning was solving the puzzles. Like, when I was a little kid, people would ask me what I wanted to do when I grew up. It was like be Sherlock Holmes. It was like solve puzzles, like find patterns and stuff like that. Pattern recognition has always been high on my list of skill sets. And so I always wanted to be a detective. And that's kind of what my dad always joked, because I would figure these things out or I'd ask really good questions. And he's like, well, you're going to be like a little detective. And I don't know, I hung on to that for some reason. And so I always thought it was solving puzzles, like making like the roadmap, the map to what the goals were. And I was learning it was a commission sales job. So there was a big like, oh no, I don't want to do that. Like, now my dream is not a reality because it didn't seem like it was actually an industry. Well, I started working at this financial planning firm, and they hired me to build out the financial planning process. So I built out the processes, procedures, had test clients. My dad was one of my test guinea pigs during this time period of actually solving the puzzles. Like, this is exactly what I want to do. It was an amazing firm. We did really well. We were panelists at these conferences in front of other really good financial firms, like explaining our processes and stuff. And they were like, oh, this is awesome. Can you help teach us? And I was just like, this is what I thought it should be in my naive brain in high school. So I loved that part of it.
So you built a system that kind of disrupted that industry, and it was a new way of doing it?
It was getting disrupted. My boss, he saw that. He goes, I see this being the future of our industry. And he thought I had the ability to solve that puzzle for him in helping him build out that side of the business.
So you had a really good mentor that saw your potential and put you right in the right spot you needed.
Absolutely. Great mentor.
Can you talk a little bit about how you came to know him and how y'all kind of clicked? Because I find a lot of times that's a clicking situation.
Yep. This was actually the financial advisor friend that my father-in-law knew. And so I knew him through my father-in-law. Okay. I saw that he was hiring someone about a year before that, but he was hiring a junior advisor that was licensed and experienced, and I didn't have that.
Okay.
And I think I almost cried when I was like, I can't even apply for it. I would love this job.
Right.
Because he's this great personality. He really has this drive and this push and this ability just to inspire that I always knew that was about him, and I felt like I needed that with how I had been for a few years. I was like, I need something, even if it's mean,
Yeah.
Even if it's a complete jerk, I don't care. Like, I need something, some energy. And the next time he was hiring, it was someone with licensing and experience. And both times the guys didn't last long. And then he goes, I give up. I just need someone to come in, base level. And he's griping about it around me. And I go, can I apply? And he had seen me in the accounting firm. And he kind of looks at me and he goes back and he talks to his office manager. His office manager kind of knows me, and she goes, "Huh? I mean, I guess." And so I apply. I interview with her. I interview with him, and they end up going, "Yeah, we'll give you the job." Because I was like, I have no ego. I have no pride here. I will start at the bottom. I'll take a pay. I had to take a pay cut. You know, like I was like, I just want to get into something different. This is exactly what I'd love to do. So I spent 5 years there. I got licensed.
What's one problem you see consistently with small businesses?
With small businesses, I mean, there's a ton of problems. But I'll take your question. And I'll actually reposition it as what most people going into business forget to focus on. Or I think the question I was asked was, what should I be focusing on that no one ever tells me to? And it's going into business with a very clear vision of where it's going to end up, as far as what core values do you want to keep and hold on to? Like, where do you want the business to, like, how do you want it to actually look? And it's so hard, especially in the beginning, to actually figure out where you want it to look. And sometimes people get bogged down there, but just getting something down.
Yeah.
And working, like, it can change. You know, nobody's going to set this in stone and like hold you to it in any amount of time.
Right.
But getting it down, because then you're able to look at that and you're going, am I making decisions congruent with what I thought my core values were going to be and what I thought this company was going to be? And if it's not, like, do I need to change the end goal here, or do I need to change what I'm doing?
Yeah.
And I see that so much because people get in the weeds. They become the tactician, always doing the job. You know, if you've ever read The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, he talks about the manager, the entrepreneur, I think, and the tactician, the person doing the job. And so you have to be all three as a business owner. A lot of times you get stuck doing the job because that's what you're good at. You know, if you open up an auto body shop and all of a sudden you're the guy that fixes the cars, you're going to put off doing the work that you have to do as the owner, and you're going to be fixing a whole bunch of cars, and the business isn't going to get worked on.
Yeah.
Because you don't really know where the business is going, most likely. It's easier to do this than to think of something that you don't want to think about or you haven't thought about.
So you got through school, you worked at the accounting firm, that didn't work out. You went to work for your mentor, that did work out really well. What from there?
Yeah, so I spent 5 years there. I loved working there. You know, I left there, but I can't say that I left there because I didn't like it. And that, I think, is it was a real blessing. Were there things that I wish I could have gotten out of that job and stayed there and built into and gotten there quicker, or whether it's my own fault or just things just didn't line up? Yeah, with every situation. But I loved that job. I loved my boss, loved my coworkers. It was actually really hard to leave. I had worked with my dad at the CPA firm. I fixed his business. It went from like a box of receipts to an accounting process to, you know, he had just paid people under the table to, we actually had payroll and W-2 employees and a payroll system. And all the way to he had paid off all his debt. Now we were actually saving for the first time ever. And he was 62 years old when we actually put the first money back for retirement. And so I was like, yeah, we'll see where this goes, you know? But I went over to financial planning and he was my guinea pig. And we were figuring out everything that he wanted to do, make sure my mom didn't have to work, stuff like that. And I kind of put that number in front of him and he goes, oh, I can do that. And by golly, he did it. And so he was shucking so much money away that I think my boss at one time, he goes, you know, is he like selling drugs on the side? Because he's got a lot of money.
It just turned around that fast.
Yeah, he just had to have that picture in front of him. It was before it was just, will this even matter?
Yeah.
Now he's like, oh, I got a number I can reach. Yeah, let me just hit that. And then at 69 and a half, he retired 7.5 years later. And
it's impressive.
It was because that was one of my proudest moments, was being able to sit across the table from him, being like, mom doesn't have to work. You did it. I think the real piece of it I keep going back to was just the courage to take those steps that had to be taken to go out on my own.
Yeah.
And the first one was to tell my boss that I was going to go out on my own. Because, I mean, he could have walked me out that day.
Yeah, those irreversible steps.
Yeah, but I was like, if I don't tell him, I will not have left the way that I want to leave.
Yeah.
And I remember that was a big deal to me. And we were going over a raise, and he was trying to get me to agree to to the plan for the next 6 months with my employment and stuff. And I was like, kept putting it off and not wanting to commit to it, not wanting to like have to backtrack and feel like I lied or anything.
Right.
And I just remember I came in that Monday, first thing right when I walked in the door, he knew it was me. It was just me and him in the office. And he goes, "Travis, that you?" I was like, "Yes, sir." He goes, "Come back here." Because he'd give me the weekend to decide. He goes, "Let me know on Monday." I was like, "Oh, okay. I guess this is when I'm telling you." Because I had told people, pray for me to figure out when to tell them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, okay.
God just put a plan
Yeah.
there, huh?
I
He
said,
said,
yeah.
this is when.
I said, "Are you sure, God?" And I joked now. I even joked with him later. I go, it felt like a God thing because it was the one time I said one sentence and I was completely speechless after that. Like some weight was on my chest, to where I just couldn't say anything else. I said, "I'm not your guy." And then he was not happy at first. It ended up being a lot better. We went to lunch. He learned what I was trying to do. He ended up even helping me leave and helping me out a lot. And I helped train my replacement. It ended up being amicable. But at the time, I feel like if I'd have said any more words, I'd have been walked out that day.
Wow.
So it was just like, "Travis, stop. Let me do this."
Yeah.
And it ended up being pretty cool. But that I think I was so scared of. I remember my hands shaking. I remember my mouth being dry. I remember thinking like, this is way earlier than it needs to be. I'm not ready to go out on my own. If I get walked out today, I have kids that are I'm gonna worry about feeding them. Like there was so much fear at that point but I still knew that's what needed to be done. And then going out on my own in the beginning, anyways, there's a lot of courage.
Yeah.
To be the person that's responsible for anything like that.
Can you talk a little bit about where you found that courage? Because, for me, I had a bit of a different experience from you where I was kind of put between a rock and a hard place. I had a guy that owed me a bunch of money, and that kind of made me sick to the idea of the industry I was working in and looking for anything else. And I was just ready to leave,
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you had a really good setup there. You had a great boss and a great career lined out somewhere.
Yeah.
What was the catalyst that got you to finally say today's the day?
I had told myself before I started that new job, because I had such like a real life draining experience at the job prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
That I was like, I don't want to get into anything that's going to make me feel that way about myself again. So I went into that one with more of a plan. Like I was like, if I can't get here, like I'm fine just leaving. And I wanted to be my own guy. The image in my head was being able to leave, to go spend time with my family in the middle of the day, to maybe just go networking, go golfing, like just control of my own calendar.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I couldn't do that day one. I knew I couldn't do that year two.
Mm-hmm.
Like I needed to put in the grunt work to work my way up to that.
Yeah.
But I needed the opportunity to do that. And I was spending, a lot was demanded of us. He had a very high motor, very high success drive. And we were doing a lot of really good work. He got a lot out of us.
Mm-hmm.
The problem was when I left the work at the end of the day, I was so exhausted. There was no way I was going to build my own book after hours. And then I had kids that I wanted to spend time with, and my wife who noticed that I was tired all the time, and that became a bit of an issue. And so I was doing great work. I loved the work, but it was taking all of my effort to maintain that pretty high level throughout the day. And so my proposition was always for him to be able to help me build my own book by giving me either time during the day or these lower level clients of his. That's kind of a natural transition in the financial advisor industry. But the problem was, to do that, he would have to invest a whole bunch. He would have to be uncomfortable. And I recognized that. And I did a lot of work interviewing a bunch of other financial advisor firms that have gone through the transition. Big names around here, big names like the regional director of Fidelity for Texas. And sat and had like a pretty fancy lunch with him because a friend of a friend knew him and got connected. And I was just trying to formulate a plan of like, what does this look like in the industry? So I made a presentation. We had like a half-hour meeting where I presented it. I had an org chart. I had like next steps. Here's what it's going to look like. Here's who we hire. Here's what we do. Here's how it's going to. Everything was lined out, even down to like, we're going to put an intern here. Yeah. I had it lined out, and he was impressed. He liked it. He appreciated it. And then over the next few months, I think it was just obvious. He just was like, why? You know, like he's just doing all this work to help me.
Right.
And I understood that. You know, I was hoping he would do, we would do it.
Of course.
But that was part of the negotiation, and it just wasn't going to go my way. And I had made a promise to myself, though, day one. I said, 3 to 5 years, I'm going to be my own guy. Every 6-month meeting between me and my boss where we did a review. Now, I never left a day at that job not knowing what my boss thought about me.
Yeah.
I mean, he was very on it. He put a lot of energy into coaching me. He put a lot of energy into making me better. He put a lot of energy into me, period, and I can't thank him enough. But we would have these 6-month time periods where we would specifically talk about what I've done and where the future is. And every single time I would remind him, I said 3 to 5 years, I'm going to be my own guy. Like that was what I promised myself. Because I've never been so sure of anything. And so at 4.5 years, we started having this discussion where I put together the plan, I did all this. About 3 months into that, it was starting to backtrack a bit. And I go, oh no. Am I going to break a promise to myself? You know, like, is that where this is going? And it became pretty obvious that, yeah, it's either me do this, which so many areas was pulling me that way, or do I break a promise to myself and stay here at a job that I'll be comfortable at?
Yeah.
You know, I'll pay the bills, but it'll just be somewhere that I'll feel disappointed in some way.
Yeah.
And that just drove me crazy.
Thank you for listening to our very first episode of Still Framing. If this conversation provoked thought, share it with someone who needs it. And don't miss our next episode. More real stories from people still learning, still growing, and still framing their lives just like you and me.